Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Science of Spirit. Today, I would like to talk about how to manifest things. This is going to be a Manifestation 101. Change your thoughts and change your reality. I really want everyone to be able to do this because it would change things in a really big way. Once you realize that you really can manifest things around you and have some control, it alleviates all that fear of not being able to get what you want or not being able to do what you want. And the feeling of having control really changes your life a lot. And you stop feeling like a victim. Many years ago, when I was first starting to learn about this, I was listening to a lot of the Abraham Hicks seminars. And I think they're really a valuable resource for learning how to do this because they talk about it and give you all different kinds of techniques for being able to get it to work. And one of those techniques that they gave is something called pre-paving. And what this is thinking about something and exactly how you would like it to happen before you ever do it. For example, if you are, let's say it's in the morning and you're going to go to work. What you can do is do a general pre-paving and talk yourself through your day. For example, my drive to work is going to be pleasant and easy. There will be very little traffic, and same way with the drive home. And my work today will be very productive. And add anything in there that you really want to get done if there's a particular project or something like that. So you can be as general or as specific as you really want to be. I'm usually fairly general about that kind of stuff, and it goes very well. I will usually pre-pave in the morning before I really start my day, and I usually go through it fairly quickly and then just don't think about it at all. And I would say 9 times out of 10, the day goes just great. One of the first things I tried doing was getting parking spots. Now, I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's a good basic thing to start off with if you're just new to this whole thing. So before I'm going to go to the store or go someplace, I will pre-pave that I'm going to get a perfect place to park. Usually a couple of hours or so before I'm going to go somewhere, I will state to myself that I find the perfect place to park, it's close to where I want to be, and I find a place quickly. And almost always that exact thing happens. So really, I decided to do these things because they were simple things that I didn't necessarily have a block to, and it's easy to prove to yourself that you actually are drawing to yourself what it is you're putting out there. So the other thing I was doing was sometimes I'd go to lunch, and I'd go to this particular place that was usually pretty busy. So I'd pre-pave about an hour or two before I was going to go. And sometimes I'd do it even early in the morning and add that in my day before I even went to work. And I put out there that, there would be hardly anybody in line. I'd get my food. The food would be great. And I'd get in and out of there. And it works like a charm. It's pretty fascinating to see it, kind of come together like that. So those are some of the things that initially got me realizing that this stuff really works because I wasn't so sure. I used to think, I want this particular thing. I'm not going against it, so why don't I have it? Well, and I just didn't understand back then that there's a lot more to this than just simply wanting something, because sometimes you can want something and put too much of the feeling of not having it into it, and that, I think, is something that happens a lot. Instead of bringing in the feelings of security and desire and joy, it's more of a wanting and I don't have it and how am I going to get it still kind of vibe. And there shouldn't be a lot of efforting with this, and I'm still not sure where to draw that line either. Now, I do have a couple of techniques you can use to kind of pre-pave over something from the past. And how this works is you bring up something that happened in the past that you remember, And something that you didn't like the way it went. Maybe it was a conversation you had with somebody or some event that seemed to be out of your control, but you would like to have had it go a different way. So what you do is you actually go through that whole event, but turn it into the way that you wish it would have gone, with the dialogue and everything, the way you wanted it to turn out. Now, an example might be a money situation. Let's say something unexpected came up where you owe more money than you have, and you really can't think of any way to pay it back. So instead of feeling fearful and getting upset about it, if you go over that event and have it turn out the way you would like for it to turn out. Now, you can't erase it and say, no, I don't, that never ever happened. You're not going to get yourself to believe that. But you can kind of pave over it with the way you would like for it to be. For example, maybe when you were a kid, you were bullied at school and they pushed you down and called you names, and it was really kind of traumatic. So instead of that, you imagine that the bully came up to you on another day, said that they were just having a really bad day because they were upset about something, and wanted to be your friend and apologized. And then maybe you even became friends. So it would have a much more positive feeling. And what that does is it seems to pave over the old reality, so to speak. So I've done this quite a few times, and it's interesting. If you don't go back and try to remember the way you think that it went down the first time and leave it alone, it definitely softens things. I've even had it where it would actually take it away, but I've had bigger things or that were more traumatic, let's say. It just softened it. So I still have the memory of it, but I don't go there a lot, and it doesn't really upset me. Now, another technique that you can use is something we like to call erase and replace. And what you do is you visualize a chalkboard or a computer screen or even a book, and you write in or onto that screen the word or phrase that you know that you need to change. For example, I have to work hard for money. Or money is hard to get. I never have enough money. And you visualize that sentence and then you erase it. You can delete it with the delete key. You can take an eraser and erase it, whatever you want to do. And then you write in that I do have enough money. I have plenty of money. And you see that being written down. And that tends to help too. It helps to reprogram yourself. Now, with this technique, it does help to pinpoint the things that you really have issues with. So, once again, using neuromuscular response with somebody who is qualified to do that, you can find out if you have those things in your subconscious. Things like I hate money, I hate myself, all of that stuff. And then proceed to correct it, find out where it came from. And it may need more than erasing and replacing, but you can at least use that technique and see how it goes, because it can be very helpful for a lot of stuff. I do think, however, that the biggest issue in not getting things that you want is still not having enough focus on what you want and still noticing the lack of and feeling the lack of. Therefore, putting more emphasis on that than what you really want, and the feeling of how you would feel if you had the thing that you want. If you have a problem with something not turning out the way you would like it to, think about how you would like to feel if you had the thing you wanted. For example, if you are having issues with money, then think about how you would feel with it. Perhaps feelings of security, relief, feeling ease and flow. And really get into the feeling of it, because that's the vibration. Then forget the money and think about things in your life that make you feel that way. And stay off the topic of money as best you can. Now, I'm not saying don't pay bills or do what you need to do, but don't get upset about paying the bills and that kind of thing. Think of it as your past thoughts are what you are living now. So if thinking about money is really getting you twirled up, then it's best to stay off the topic and just go with things that make you feel the way you think you feel if you have the money, if that makes sense. And this is a technique that Abraham Hicks has given, and it's a pretty good one. If you're really having trouble with, just the thought of a thing, just rattles your cage, get off the topic, but still feel the feelings you want to feel by thinking about something else in your life that would bring up those feelings. For example, if you feel that having money would make you feel more secure, then find something in your life right now that gives you security. Something that makes you feel secure. It could be the fact that you have a nice place to live and you feel secure there. Or maybe the job you have gives you a sense of security. If you had more money, things would seem easier because you could just do whatever you wanted for the most part, at least if it was anything that could be purchased. So having money can give you a sense of freedom as well. So think about things in your life currently that give you a sense of ease or freedom. But I honestly think one of the very best things that you can do is always have a positive outlook on things. Even things that come into your life that aren't necessarily wanted. If you put a positive spin on it, then that draws more of that to you. And the same thing happens with negative thoughts, producing more negative thoughts. Have you noticed that if you are thinking about things you don't want and start feeling bad about, you just keep getting more thoughts that are unpleasant and even about other things? And of course, the opposite is true as well. If you're thinking about positive things, then you get more of that. But I remember, this was quite some time ago, I was really in kind of a sad state. I was kind of bored and sad and not feeling happy. And I didn't want to get myself any further down the rabbit hole than that. So I knew better and I needed to pull myself up kind of slowly. Now, you can't go from really feeling sad to feeling happy in one fell swoop. You have to kind of do it in increments. So what I decided to do was just really try and use my imagination and think of something that would make me happy, which was not easy to do because I was really in a negative state. So I started thinking about being in Fiji or someplace where the water was just beautiful and crystal clear and it was warm and lovely. And I was really getting into it. And then all of a sudden the thought crept in, what if there's a tsunami? I just kind of started laughing. But, that's an example of these negative thoughts bringing in more negative thoughts. But here's a big thing. You see, hypnotherapy is based on finding the things in your past, in your subconscious, that are giving you problems to this day. And all of those things are some event that you thought was traumatic in some way. And sometimes as a little kid, you take things differently than you would if you were an adult. So things that can seem really scary to a kid, as you're older, you're like, yeah, that really wouldn't have been that big of a deal. So kids can take things coming to a wrong conclusion, I guess I should say, about something that happened in the past. So hypnotherapy goes back to those events, be they in this life or in a past one, and they put basically a positive spin on those things, giving you a different outlook to that particular event, a more positive one, which is sort of like paving over a bad event and then having it in your subconscious as something that wasn't as traumatic. So, if you do that sort of thing in your regular working day by putting a positive spin on everything that happens to you, you aren't going to end up with a bunch of stuff that you got to go back and fix at some point. So, I think it's really, really important to have a positive outlook on everything and just get that knowledge that no matter what happens, even if it's something that you really are not crazy about, that you find some positive reason for it happening. So the more positive expectation you put out there, the more positivity you get back. And if you are noticing that things in your life really don't seem to change much, then it's probably because you are focused on what is. What I mean by that is you're not using your imagination to think of things the way you want them to be. You're just looking at your day-to-day and not really putting much imagination forth as far as how you would like things to be different. So whether you like the way things are in your life or not, in order to get a change, you need to focus on the change, not what is currently there. Not always easy to do. If focusing on the things you want makes you feel the lack of it, then quit thinking about it. And once again, focused on the things that you have right now that give you the feeling that you want. I am going to make a separate podcast coming up here pretty soon. A guided meditation for getting your best possible future. And I think that'll be fun for a lot of people to do. And it'll be another great tool to use to manifest things that you want in your life. And that's a good one because you're bringing in a lot of energy to do it too. Anyway, something we could all put a positive spin on is this whole pandemic event. This is obviously being recorded during the COVID-19 pandemic. And there's a lot of fear with this whole thing, for various reasons. But also there is a lot of good that can come out of this too. So if you are one of those folks who've lost your job and you're not going to go back to work to that same company, maybe it is an opportunity to move on to something better. And it's best to at least keep that in mind and put out there what it is you really want to do instead of being worried about it, because the worry is just going to bring more of that to you. So if you are new to the law of attraction, I really do recommend the Abraham Hicks materials because it's all explained pretty well. I actually prefer the podcasts or going to a live seminar, but they do have several books out too that give a lot of techniques and great explanations on how to do all this. Now, along the same vein as manifesting things and events in your life is dealings with people. Now, if someone does something that you don't particularly care for, you might be able to talk to them and they may agree to not doing it anymore, and that might end up just being the path of least resistance. But a lot of times there's stuff people do that bugs you or for whatever reason, and telling the other person isn't really going to have any effect. People you work with, stuff like that. And really, trying to get the other person to change is not really what you want to be doing. It's changing your thoughts about them that will make the change. This is something I really haven't had much of a struggle with in my life at all. I generally always get along with people. Now, I'm not saying that when I was a kid that there weren't issues and stuff, but really as an adult, not so much. But I must say, I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't tend to look at their shortcomings unless they're really going to point them out. And once I get to know somebody, I tend to look at what their potential is, what they could really do that would be for their highest good. I don't know why I've done that. I just tend to do that. So it's possible that people reflect back to me something better than they normally would to other people. I don't know. It makes sense that that's the way that goes down. I do want to tell you a story about a friend who was really good at being able to change her thoughts about a boss and kind of in the middle of crisis too. So this was actually pretty impressive. Okay, she works for a very high-end hotel and works with a legal group. And her boss was an attorney and fairly high up in the organization, but not really very well liked by too many people. And she's a younger woman who was married and had a couple of kids. Now, my friend is very good at what she does. She deals in insurance and so had to deal with the legal department a lot. And she's been working in this business for a long time, so she's very competent and very knowledgeable, and she really knows what she's doing. But she was finding when she'd go into her boss's office because she wanted to talk to her, the boss would have just not good things to say. She'd even rant about her and say that she wasn't doing things right and all this stuff. And it was really upsetting my friend a lot because it really wasn't true, for one thing. But the boss would even sometimes yell and scream. I mean, kind of over the top. So my friend was describing this to me, and we came up with maybe the solution to change how she reacts to her. So this wasn't easy. She decided that she was going to find something that she liked about her. And at the time, the only thing she could come up with was she liked her outfits. She wore some really nice clothes. So she thought about that before she would get called into this woman's office. And then she softened it a little more and said, this gal does work long hours too, and she's got a couple of little kids, and I'm sure she'd rather be at home doing things with her family rather than working so much. So that softened it a little bit more. And eventually, things changed. She stopped getting yelled at. She even started getting, the boss would get these tickets sometimes to shows, and if she couldn't make it, she started giving them to my friend. So that whole thing was really kind of interesting to see because it was kind of in the middle of crisis. My friend was really upset when she was going through this, but she managed to calm herself down before going into this woman's office, and then putting those new thoughts in place really changed everything. So things were going along pretty well, and then my friend and I had another conversation about this boss, and we thought, wouldn't it be nice if she just found something that was maybe a better fit for her, since there were a lot of other people that really didn't like her, and maybe there's someplace better. So probably not within maybe a couple of months, she was gone. She left. Now, she didn't quit. She was actually let go. But we figured she was going to find something else. I mean, she could find another job, not that big of a deal. So hopefully she found something better for her, less hours, something to that effect. We never did know where she went, but thought it was interesting that my friend was able to create all of that in her reality. And now the new boss is great. So I think that is a really good example of changing your thoughts and getting a different outcome. And not by trying to change the other person, but changing your own thoughts. Thus bringing in the other reality that you want. Perhaps we are simply vibrating at the right frequency to bring that reality to us so that we can actually see it in the physical. So I hope you try some of these techniques and that you can get them to work. I think you will if you practice. And I will be talking to you soon. So thank you for listening to The Science of Spirit. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe. Thanks.